time today talking about metabolism, nutrition, exercise, kind of the essentials of building these blocks so you guys can implement them into your life. Here's the stats on it. It's 7 out of 8 people now have metabolic dysregulation. The vast majority of us don't even know it. 1/3 of us sitting in the room right now is pre-diabetic. Most of us probably don't know it. The number just eclipsed 110 million in America. And so while 10% of people have diabetes, 1/3 of us are pre-diabetic, just as one of the little things that is a form of metabolic dysregulation. So a lot of us have these issues and problems, and unfortunately, and this is why I love doing talks like this, is because although we have better technology available everywhere, I mean, there's more information around now than there ever has been before. Not only with YouTube and doctors online, but now AI coming in and giving a lot of answers with it. Still, we have lots of health problems, and unfortunately, we have not seen this trend that with better technology, we're getting healthier. With better technology, we've gotten what? Sicker. Unfortunately, yeah. So this is a 2022 perspective study showing that for established nations, for first world nations, the U.S., unfortunately, we have the lowest life expectancy at birth. We have the highest death rates for avoidable or treatable conditions, so we lead the world in people who live with chronic conditions in America. What we're really good at is getting sick young and then using medicine to prolong our life. And I can't stand that, you know what I mean? Like, we should be the healthiest, we should be on less medications. We're depressed as a nation, we're among the highest suicide rates. We have the highest rate of people with multiple chronic conditions, and an obesity rate that's twice the average of most first world countries, which is sad. Another stat that came out, this is like last week, this is from UNICEF, the number of kids who are overweight. So malnourishment has always been a problem in children, right? Usually it was always malnourished, underweight. The number just eclipsed 50%, that more children are overnourished, are obese, than are undernourished now. So it's a bigger problem now that we have more children that are obese than are underweight. First time it's happened in human history where we're going this trend. And we've seen it for years happening, right? Where everyone with processed foods, terrible oils, all the things that we'll get into today, they're going that direction and we're seeing it, okay? We should be spending more on health and having better health. I think that health is something you value. I think you should vote with your dollars. I think voting and spending on health is important, but in America, we're still doing it wrong. We spend more than any other country, and we're sicker than other first world countries, which is insane. And so if you're not paying for it, you're paying for someone else's. Heart disease, cancer, all these things that are going up and up and up through that area, okay? Are these coming up there? Okay. So just studies on this so you can see it. I'll drive a point home, but gaining weight is something a lot of us struggle with. Big risk factor for obesity-related cancers. Sleeping with the TV on, so bad lifestyle, right? May lead to weight gain. There's a lot of different things that people tend to do that they think, oh, I need the TV to help me fall asleep. These are a lot of examples of just things that cause our body to become bad metabolically. And so I always get hopeful that, like, okay, now's the time that people are really going to take advantage of, like, getting after it. We have more technology, we should have more free time, we have parks available, we have resources available, we have education available. So, like, yeah, we're going to get to this point that everyone's going to start getting healthier. And unfortunately, every time that I see that, like, we can make a turn and, like, make a great decision as a society, we go right back in, okay? So the last 2-3 years has been not, yes, we need to get more fitness and do better. It's we need weight loss injections. That's the new solution now, is instead of working to have a healthier diet and do the right things, now they're pushing really hard to approve weight loss injections for kids. So we have kids that are malnourished, that are overweight, and so let's not change the fact that, you know what I mean, they have zero nutrition in their diet. The average kid eats 70% of their diet is ultra-processed foods. Let's work on fixing that like some other countries have. No, we're going to just give them Ozempic. So what they're doing is they're doing research now, and they're trying to approve these injections to be in minors. And I understand, I'm not saying that they're the worst things ever in the world. There are times when these weight loss injections can be life-saving, but to not fix a problem and mask it with another thing that has potential side effects is absolutely asinine to me. Does anyone agree with that? Is that kind of ridiculous? Okay, just curious if we're on the same page here. So yeah, drives me crazy, okay? So what do we do about it, okay? So step one, for you guys, this is personally for you guys, is if you want to be really healthy, I think it's important to look at your values in life and where you're spending your time and aligning those things properly. Okay, so step one, if you're writing things down, align your values. Okay, that's honestly where I think a lot of us struggle, is where we say our values are versus where we vote with our values. And you vote with your values with time. Okay, so if you value health as an example, the next sentence out of your mouth cannot be, but I'm too busy, right? If your health is your number one, number two, number three value, then you need to vote with it with time, right? So what I see is a lot of people have misaligned values. I'm just too busy, but if I looked at your life schedule, if you somehow were able to map it out for me 168 hours a week, I could probably find 5 to 10 hours where you could be exercising, working out, grocery store shopping, meal planning, doing the right things. A lot of people have misaligned values. So we'll talk about that. The second thing is acquiring knowledge. So you have to have a good understanding of what to do and how to implement these strategies into your life. You have to have a plan with those things, okay? So get the knowledge, have a plan, and then what we'll go through with today, and as we leave today, I'll leave you guys with a 30-day challenge to start this with you guys, is once you have the knowledge, once you set the plan, you work the plan and you keep score, okay? And then a lot of us fall off when it comes to keeping score. There's no one to hold us accountable. Well, if you guys are here and you're patients, or if you're guests and you want to become a patient, and Dr. Marks and I, we're your accountability, along with Dr. J and Dr. Shepard, the other doctors here. But we will happily keep score for you guys and move you along with this. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do with you guys, okay? And make sure that you guys can actually achieve these goals long term, okay? So what we start with as our foundation in this office is our 5 essentials, okay? And really, deficiency in these essentials is what robs us away from our best life, okay? So having the right mindset, extremely important. Your mind isn't just your control center. That's your body's weapon. We know that stress can spike inflammation patterns, just mental stress alone, by up to 40%. I had a patient an hour ago ask me what's the biggest cause of inflammation. And I said, your mindset. And she's like, well, you're talking about nutrition today. And I was like, I understand that, but we can create more stress for a lot of us than our diet's even doing. It's ridiculous that that's how powerful your brain is to control inflammation and be a driver for that. So positive mindset, changing around your mindset doesn't just make you happier. It's what rewires your brain for resilience. So if you train your mind like you train your body, you're going to get good health, because every negative thought just pushes you closer to a chronic disease pattern, which none of us want. So second thing is nutrition. Old adage, you are what you eat. And we will spend some time going through nutrition today. But the reality, which you have to understand, is that for every extra pound of weight that you carry, research tells us that you're not just putting on weight, you're stressing your arteries. For every pound of fat you put on, it requires like a quarter of a mile of extra arteries and capillaries to be produced inside of your body. There's all these little things that go on for every time that we get further away from our ideal health, from our ideal weight. Fat tissue releases inflammatory cytokines. We're going to talk through some nerdy science on how fat works, how fat creates hormones, how you're not just your brain's cravings, you're also your body's cravings, and how to talk back to those hormones and those signals as well. We'll talk fitness today. So obviously your body was designed to move. It was created for it. And so if you're not moving and you're a deficiency of movement, it's impossible to be healthy. So fitness has to be part of your life. And what we'll go through today is the best ways to implement fitness. Do I lift weights? Do I do cardio training? Do I do anaerobic training? Do I do HIIT training? Do I do Tabata? Do I do Pilates? Like what are the best ways to implement those into our life? We'll go through that with you guys. So you'll have a framework of, on a weekly basis, here's how I do this, this, and this, right? And then we'll help you guys plug those into your life. Cool. The importance of keeping a healthy spine, keeping a healthy posture. A lot of you guys are already implementing those strategies. We'll talk a little bit more about that today in mobility. That'll be a good starting point for some of you guys. And then I always love to share some testimonials as well. So we'll go through that as well. We'll talk a little bit about toxins today. This being an 1.5 hour long talk, I'm not going to get super in depth into toxins. I've got tons of videos on our YouTube channel for it. I'll give you guys a link for them afterwards. Toxins are their own talk. I do a 3-hour talk on toxins usually in the spring. So if you want to get more toxin stuff, come to that. Okay. My goal today is that we chew through everything pretty quickly. If you have a question on something that's like on the slides, awesome. if I'm going to get to it, I will tell you that. I'm not going to be mean, but I'll say, hey, we'll get to that. And if it's something that's a little bit longer of a question, just so I can try to finish around noon, and we're going to be doing weigh-ins for those of you guys who want to do the challenge with us. At the end, I'll hang out for as long as possible and answer questions too at the end. So we won't leave until everyone's questions are answered by the end of this, okay? But the end goal of the talk today is to help set a framework for you guys to, if you want to push yourselves, to challenge yourselves for the next 30 days, to try to implement as many of these things as possible into your life, okay? And what we see is dramatic change in 30 days. And if people stick with them, it's incredible the difference. We had someone start our health coaching protocols about 2 months ago. He came in specifically for that. He listened to us on the radio. In 8 weeks, he's down 22 pounds. He's maintained all of his lean muscle mass, so he's just burning through fat, has more energy than ever before. It's easy to do. He's not getting injections or weird stuff. He's just working on his fitness and his health, and it's making a huge difference through there, okay? So you'll get a workshop sheet that goes through stuff like this 30-day challenge, or I think some of you guys already have it, but we'll walk through all these implementation steps with you guys to really get the best out of this talk. Cool? All right, so metabolism. How does metabolism change as we age? So very commonly, I'll talk to patients who will say, well, doc, I think it's these lies we tell ourselves. I'm getting older now. Your metabolism slows down when you get older, right, doc? And I'm not some people's age, so they can just say it to me and say, well, you're not there yet, so you don't know and you can't comment on it because you're not that age, right? And so I'm like, dang it, you got me. So I pull research, right? And so this idea that metabolism slows down that we age, it's a half-truth. Does it slow down some at a certain age? Yes. Is it as much as you think, just related to your age? No. Biggest metabolic spikes happen when you're young. 0 to 1 far and away is the biggest. Your metabolism stays pretty high from the ages of 1 to 18 years old. Some of you guys know kids that can eat anything and digest it. You can eat a tire and probably get some nutrients out of it. They're fastidious, right? I see these kids all the time that come in and I'm like, what do you eat? And they're like, oh, I live at McDonald's, all this stuff. And they think it's healthy for them because they're like, look how skinny I am. And then they blow up when they're 25 and it's like, no, your metabolism was massive. You could eat whatever you wanted. Metabolism kind of stabilizes from 18 until the age of about 60. So there's not a big change at all for 42 years of your life. And then after 60, yes, if you're over 60, metabolism does go down. I've got the number on here, just so you don't hold me to it. It's roughly 0.7% per year. That's from a large study that was done and published in 2021 in Harvard Health. So it does decrease, but it's very slow, okay? So this idea that just you're gonna slow down as you age and there's nothing you can do about it, it's all a half-truth, okay? It's part of it, but please don't sit back on this as the reason. This is more of a small thing than being like a large issue, okay? So how does your metabolism work? Okay, we'll get into a little bit of nerdy numbers here. I won't bore you guys with lots of charts and graphs, but I'll give you a few of them. So metabolism is not just you getting out and exercising and doing work. In fact, your time in the gym is a very, very small percentage of the calories you actually burn. And so I know a lot of people who will go to workouts and they'll say, oh, well, I got to burn 300, 400, 500 calories here. That's going to be my energy burn. The reality is the vast majority of your metabolism is from something known as NEAT, which is this NEAT up there. So BMR is your basal metabolic rate. That's how much energy you burn just for living, just the cost of doing business, to keep you alive, to keep your pulse going, keep your brain working, keep your body digesting food. That's 70% of your metabolism is directly derived from that, okay? Only about 3 to 5% of your daily caloric burn is going to come from exercising. And so you don't actually have to over-exercise. You don't have to be working out 4 or 5 hours a day is the point I'm trying to get across. If you're working out at a good rate 3 to 4 days a week and doing everything else right, you should really have a great functioning metabolism, okay? So this thing called NEAT is known as your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically, the energy you burn from living, like actually just doing things, washing dishes, going to the grocery store, walking around, that's where the vast majority of our caloric expenditure comes from. And so what most experts agree is that we should be moving a lot on a daily basis. not sitting in the gym necessarily. In fact, I would argue, and I do think that weight training is important for truly maximizing longevity, but if you look at the cultures that have the longest lived people on earth, they don't honestly have gyms. Like the longest lived cultures do not necessarily do CrossFit 6 days a week or something like Olympic weight training. I think it's important, but I'll just say it that like you look at Sardinia, for example, that's an island off the southern coast of Italy, right? What is their terrain? Hills. And if you watch any videos on the Blue Zones, you'll see this, 85-year-old guy who's like, I'm gonna go to the grocery store this morning, and he goes out his door and it's like a hill, and he's got these big old calves. That's their life is movement and activity. So most physiologists agree that we should have 8 to 12 hours of movement on a per day basis where we're accomplishing tasks and getting things done. And unfortunately, maybe not you guys, everyone else out there, the average person sits 12 and a half hours a day. So we're sitting more than we're moving now. We're at a huge deficit when it comes to that. Why? Well, it doesn't take as much work to thrive as it did before. You could literally sit at your house now. You could have groceries delivered to your doorstep. You could actually do better than that. You can DoorDash food already made. You know what I mean? I'm sure someone would chew it for you if you paid them enough to, and you wouldn't have to do anything, right? So like it gets to the point where it gets so easy through here that like you could literally maybe have 150 steps a day. You could get up, go to the bathroom, walk to your computer. I have a cousin who does this. He works from home, and I'm like, how much do you move? And he's like, my lowest day was like 150 steps. And I'm like, like how do you live, right? So that's a problem. So it's not just about fitness, but it's about being active just in general as well. If you do that part right, you don't have to slave in the gym. And I would actually argue that if you do sit like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, an hour in the gym isn't even enough to undo that, right? It's not going to totally counteract it. It might go a long way to help it, but you really need to work on changing your lifestyle to, generally speaking, be more active. So when we talk metabolism problems, it's not just that you have weight loss resistance or a little bit of fatigue, but metabolism disorders can be wide-ranging. They don't just affect how you feel, but they can affect your blood pressure, cholesterol, cardiovascular health in general, your rate of obesity, diabetes. Metabolism disorders also lead to autoimmune disorders and problems. That is arthritis. That's inflammatory problems. Having an improper metabolism affects your thyroid, can cause problems like infertility. All these different things are metabolic. So it's not just saying it's weight gain. Once that starts, this whole cascade of events happen that can affect every different part of your life. Okay? So what are the warning signs that you're metabolically inflexible, that your metabolism is not working properly? One big thing is that you're always snacking. If you always feel like you're getting hungry. If you get hangry as well, big warning sign that you're metabolically inflexible. Essentially that your insulin is out of control. And that's what controls your blood sugar and in cravings for food. So if you're constantly craving sugar and carbohydrates, usually a big warning sign that your body's imbalanced metabolically speaking. We'll talk in a couple slides about where those cravings specifically come from, why they're probably not your brain thinking it, they're probably somewhere else in your body. Struggle with belly fat. If you feel full or satisfied after a meal, you feel like you're still just not all the way there. You slump in the afternoon, huge sign of metabolic inflexibility. If you're not sleeping well, if you have brain fog, mood issues, all these are warning signs that you're metabolically inflexible. If you notice you're getting more tags on your skin, big warning sign of acceleration of diabetes and insulin problems is a warning sign. I see patients sometimes who they're like, oh, they popped up on my neck. That's a big warning sign that you're metabolically inflexible and trending down the road of having diabetes. So all these things affect your metabolism. It's not just one thing. I can't just give you one silver bullet. And so we're going to try to encompass it and talk about as many different things on it as possible today. But all these things have to work well for you guys to be healthy long term. Okay? So we'll talk a little bit about hormones. So I mentioned insulin just a little bit. Insulin's made in your pancreas. Okay? So when your body eats food, your pancreas creates insulin. Insulin is what tells your body to take sugar out of your bloodstream and push it into your cells. Okay? And so diabetes, the long-term effect of insulin problems, is a result of you eating so much carbohydrates day in, day out, all the time, that you develop something known as insulin resistance. Have you guys all heard of that before? Insulin resistance? Okay, so we all know that one, right? Very common to develop insulin resistance over time. If you can't get your blood sugar down, sugar in your arteries is extremely inflammatory to your body. So if you're eating lots of sugar and your body cannot get it down, that sugar will cause oxidative stress within the arteries. It'll crack the arteries. It'll cause cholesterol formation within the arteries. Cholesterol is not the bad guy. It's just the soldier that gets called out. It's meant to clot your arteries so they don't break. But the eventual problem with cholesterol is it'll clot the whole artery and you'll end up having a heart attack or a stroke or have a lot of issues from it. But cholesterol is not the bad guy, but it's the result of all this blood sugar. There's two other hormones I want to talk on, okay? There's leptin and ghrelin. Have you guys heard of these before? Maybe? Okay. So leptin is the hormone that controls satiety, and it's actually produced by your fat cells. So it's kind of interesting that your fat cells aren't just these dormant cells. They actually release hormones that tell your body what to do. And so, yes, we have a brain, but we also have all these other things that influence our brain, okay? And so I think it's important because you have to understand where cravings come from. Whenever we get hungry, in your body, what's triggered there is a survival complex. Your body doesn't want to die. And so one of your most primal needs that has to be met is not being hungry. And so when you're hungry, it's a huge driver for you, right? And so typically what should happen in a healthy body is that all of our bodies have a set point for the amount of healthy fat that we need to have, okay? And so for guys, usually that number is anywhere from 10 to 20%. For females, anywhere from 18 to 28%, just to give you guys some round numbers. That's how much fat your body should have on it. And so when you have that much fat in your body, the amount of leptin that's released by your fat cells goes into your bloodstream and it tells your brain, hey, we're good on fat. Like, we don't need any more fat. We're totally fine. Got plenty of fat down here for reserves. We're good, okay? So leptin shuts off hunger, okay? In the same way that you can develop diabetes from chronically ingesting sugar, chronic leptin in the body at high levels can desensitize your brain to it. And so a weird thing that typically when you start to put on more weight, your body should shut off the hunger response. So generally speaking, we should work at more of a set point due to a lot of factors. And I'll go through them with you guys in a minute because I wrote them all down because there's too many. That leptin resistance is what can cause cravings that make you think you're hungry, but you're actually not. Almost your leptin, your fat cells start to work against you. Think about your fat cells as not being like these weird just things. Your fat is actually more of an organ than you would think. So when you have lots of fat and you have decreased leptin sensitivity, you might have food cravings all the time. And you're like, no, I need to eat, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And the weight comes on and it never comes off, okay? So what affects leptin and ghrelin? And it's kind of interesting, okay? Ghrelin is the opposite. So ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So when your stomach empties, it releases a hormone called ghrelin, and that's what tells you to be hungry, okay? So you want those two to kind of work in a balance with one another, right? You don't want too much leptin, you don't want too much ghrelin. In fact, if anything, you want more leptin with good sensitivity, so you're not hungry all the time. That's the best, okay? So what decreases ghrelin? What decreases your hunger hormones? What we've shown is that protein-rich meals are an incredible way to decrease ghrelin, meaning help you feel full and satiated, okay? So some of the problems I see where people graze all day, they snack all the time, they never feel satiated because their body doesn't get the nutrients that they need. And protein is one of the main nutrients that helps our muscles stay around. And so if you're eating a diet that's rich in fat and carbohydrates and really low in good quality proteins, your body is going to be hungry after a meal because you didn't satiate yourself, okay? Enter the potato chip, right? What are potato chips mostly? Fat and carbs, right? They're fat and carbs, right? And so you would think eating a fatty carbohydrate-rich potato chip that you would eventually at some point get full. And Lay's has the saying or the motto, slogan, what is it? Because why? There's no protein there, right? So you eat all you want, you're not satiated, you still feel hungry, and you devour the bag, right? There's no protein to turn off that hunger switch inside of your brain, right? Is this helpful for you guys? This and here's the sad part is that they know this. Food scientists, food manufacturers on the other end of this, they know it. okay? And so there's this awesome cartoon of this person buying an item in a grocery store, and on the other side of that item, there's like 100 food scientists like watching how they're buying it, how much they're buying of it, and they're taking that data back to a lab to analyze it, okay? So unfortunately now, food is not just grown by farmers to us. Food is a commercial industry, right? And foods that don't taste good don't get bought, and companies go out of business. And so food companies now are not designed to help you have better health. They are unfortunately designed to sell product. That is unfortunately how businesses work. So tastier product, better product that you eat more of, that you come back for more of, they're winning, okay? It's really sad the world that we live in. Sleep deprivation. So if you're decreased in sleep, it increases your ghrelin. So you're down on sleep, the next day, your body tries to make up for that lack of sleep, lack of energy with foodstuffs. So you will eat on average more if you are sleep deprived the next day. So all these things matter when it comes to health. You stay up late to watch a show, you lose 2 hours of sleep here, you're like, I'll just make it up on Saturday. The next 2-3 days of being sleep deprived, you're eating more. You're consuming more, trying to make up for that energy imbalance from not having the right rest that you need, okay? Obesity. In the beginning, obesity increases leptin, which decreases your hunger. So in the very beginning, when you start to gain weight, your body will sort of turn off your hunger switch, trying to bring you back down. But long-term obesity actually starts to decrease leptin sensitivity. So you might have more of it, but your body's less sensitive to it. So it's what oftentimes can make weight loss resistance so challenging. Your signals are telling you that you're hungry when your body has so much reserves it doesn't even know what to do with them, right? So the reason I say that is I want you guys psychologically to understand that you're not your cravings. Your cravings may be wrong in your brain, and intelligently you can kind of rise above that and start thinking outside of that box and fight back at them, and then over time you'll actually get better, right? But a lot of us never cross through that threshold of getting to the other side of it, okay? Exercise. How does exercise affect these hormones? I think this is really interesting. So you might think like, oh, exercise is always going to make me famished and really hungry. So exercise has actually been shown to lower your baseline ghrelin. So the hunger hormone, it's actually more moderated when you are exercising it consistently. You're not quite as hungry all the time, which is kind of neat, okay? You always think that like, oh, exercise is going to make me hungry all the time, but it actually improves hunger regulation and helps to stabilize it. Stress massively increases ghrelin. When you stress, you crave food. Stress increases cortisol. High cortisol makes you crave fat, salt, sweet, okay? Salt holds water inside of your body. And so if you're stressed out, your body goes into more of a primitive survival state. So high salt means you retain more water, right? If you need to be without water for a while, great. They're going to tell you to put in more salt, okay? More fat means more energy reserves for later on. Sugar is a burst of energy. And so our body's three primal cravings when we're stressed are salt, fat, and sweet, which is why the chip aisles and the food aisles, that's why they make their money, because we're stressed. And a lot of times now we're stressed about stupid stuff we can't even control. No offense, stuff that's 12,000 miles away. And if you didn't have the internet, you'd never know it was existing. You wouldn't. But now, in the world we live in, we can worry about anything 24/7. You can go online, you can find something to worry about. It's really easy, right? And so that's the problem. Not saying don't be concerned about some issues, but like that is the reality. Like I've seen my sister have mental breakdowns over something that's going on 12,000 miles away. Her life is a mess. She doesn't eat healthy, she doesn't exercise. She's not here, so but doesn't do any of those things. And then she'll come to me like, "Did you hear about?" And I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like you're sick, you're on medications. Like how are you worried about this thing? Like your circle of concern is so greater than your circle of influence. And sometimes when it comes to being healthy, it comes back to focusing on you. And a lot of us don't want to take the time and look in the mirror and deal with that because it's easier to worry about something far away than to change your own body, right? We're better than that, okay? So we're going to start talking about foods and going through them. Dr. Marks is going to lead us through and hit us between the eyes. So give him a round of applause. Awesome. There you go.
Thank you.
Cool. You got to use this.
The right one.
Just that down arrow.
Hi guys, I'm Dr. Marks. I'm sure I've met most of you guys, but if not, welcome. Thank you for coming, giving me some of your time today. I'm going to be talking about some misconceptions on diet, how to formulate a diet, and how to make positive daily habits and how to implement them for a lifetime. So today, first I'm going to talk about some toxic healthy foods like Dr. Thomas talked about in the grocery store. If you look at the way the grocery store is laid out, all the health foods are usually in the perimeter. Health foods, the companies don't market them. Like if you go pick up an avocado, there's no health claims on it. If you go pick up a vegetable, like any foods that you really have to look and pick them out, there's no health claims on them, and those are usually the healthiest foods. Those are whole foods, and what a whole food is there's one ingredient. Like a steak, if you go to the store, there's one ingredient, it's beef. If you go to the middle aisles in the store, that's usually when you run into problems and you'll see the most marketing on those. You'll pick up the package, it says heart healthy, it has all these health claims, and there's, like, why do you need to do that if it's healthy? You don't need to make any claims. So that's really, if you can, when you're in the grocery store, try to stay to the outsides. The only thing I would say is on the interior of the store, you can find frozen fruits and vegetables. Those actually can be good if you get organic ones, because when you pick vegetables and fruits, when they flash freeze them, they're at its peak ripeness. So those are usually pretty good, and they stay good longer. And you can just thaw them out or just throw them in a pan and cook them right up, especially vegetables. The frozen water just steams them basically. So that's really good. But other than that, really try to stay out of the interior of the store. One good thing that I've heard is if you look at the box and you look at the ingredients and you can't go to the other parts of the store and find those ingredients to make it, then you should probably stay away from it. And a lot of times you can't even pronounce half the ingredients that it's made out of. So that's the main thing I would start with. I'm going to talk about some toxic health foods that you may think is healthy, but really can be unhealthy. First, it's going to be low-fat or fat-free foods. So these have been marketed for decades. You think you're eating less fat, like it's mostly dairy products, but the problem is when they take the fat out, they add sugar to make up for the flavor. And the full-fat foods are bound by different globulins that actually are very nutritious for you. So getting a whole, like let's say milk, getting a whole fat milk is actually better than a skim milk. Same with yogurt, cheese, things like that. And then granola bars and cereal, they're mostly sugar. So if you can stay away, and that's the worst thing you can eat right when you wake up in the morning, which is when most people eat it, especially kids. It's easy to give them a bowl of cereal, skim milk and cereal, and it's all sugar. And then it raises your sugar and then it crashes after a couple hours. So really try to stay away from granola and cereal. A lot of them are labeled like Nature Valley. It sounds great, Nature Valley. I mean, it's literally just sugar. So, and the crumbs get everywhere. So the big one is flavored yogurts with the fruit on the bottom. You mix it up. It tastes really good. You think it's healthy. It has health claims on it. Fat-free, all that kind of stuff. If you look at how much sugar in that, it's ridiculous. It's basically a dessert. A good option is to do Greek yogurt, but you want to get a straight organic Greek yogurt, unflavored. You can throw your own berries in there. And you can even put a little bit of honey. Honey's great. You can add that to it. It tastes amazing. It is so much better for you. And Greek yogurt has probiotics in it, but when they add the artificial fruit in the bottom, it has dyes in it that kill all the microbes anyways. So, and it kills them in your gut as well. So really try to stay away from the flavored yogurts. Veggie chips and veggie straws. They market it as vegetables. It has 0 vegetables in it. Maybe for some coloring, they might add some carrot powder, but they are basically, you might as well just get chips. And they're fried in seed oils anyway, so you might think it's healthier, but in reality, it's exactly the same as eating a bag of chips. And like Dr. Thomas talked about, you can eat the entire bag and you're still need more. Sports drinks. This one's big. A lot of people drink sports drinks because you're out in the hot sun, exercising. Electrolytes have been all the rage nowadays. They do have electrolytes in them, which are just minerals. You need minerals in your water. That's why, if you look at like reverse osmosis water, that's why you need minerals in your water. A lot of companies, when they bottle water, they add minerals for flavor, but you need minerals to get the water into the cell. So electrolytes are good, but those flavored drinks have they have high fructose corn syrup in them. They can have up to like 50 grams of sugar which combats the whole purpose of why you're drinking it in the first place. So one thing you can do is just add a pinch of salt to your water. And then especially if you get a nice sea salt, it has minerals in it, so that's your electrolytes. Way better than drinking a Gatorade, for example. Artificial sweeteners and diet products. A lot of people tend to get the 0 calorie, like a Coke Zero or something. They use artificial sweeteners, which do, like if you're someone that drinks an entire case of pop every day, it can be beneficial to get the Coke Zero, but I think there's some other issues we need to deal with there. But yeah, a lot of times the 0 calorie sweeteners disrupt gut health. They increase sugar cravings in the long run, and they really negatively impact your metabolism. So if you can, try to stay away from the artificial sweeteners, like I said, unless it's helping you when you drink an entire case of soda every day. And then processed plant-based meats. These have become increasingly popular nowadays. I get it if you don't eat meat for whatever reasons, but it's kind of strange to make a patty to look exactly like the thing you're not trying to eat that has 1,000 ingredients in it that none of them are meat. Meat has one ingredient and it's beef, or let's say chicken. But there's a lot of bad things and things that disrupt your hormones inside of these artificial meat products. So if you're gonna not eat meat, I would definitely err on the side of eating whole foods, like eat vegetables, fruits, nuts, berries, seeds, things like that, and not just counteract it by eating something that's trying to be meat when you're not eating meat. Next, I'm going to talk about, but I eat healthy. A lot of people think they eat healthy, and they do, but they tend to overeat. One thing I would say, like Dr. Thomas mentioned, was protein is very important, and one thing you can do is eat, like when you have your meal laid out, try to eat the protein first before the carbs. We tend to start eating the carbs first. Like you go to a restaurant, they serve you bread first, you eat a bunch of bread, and then you're still not satiated, or you're kind of feeling bloated and stuff. And then you tend to not eat the rest of the protein. So try to eat the protein first, and you'll see how much less you eat because you are satiated at the end of the meal. So eat the protein first, and then move on to the vegetables and maybe some carbs later on. And that'll really help. You'll notice how much less you eat when you do that first. So like we talked about before, protein is the most essential nutrient. It's very nutrient dense, and it's made up of amino acids. The whole reason why we eat protein is to get the amino acids, because those are the building blocks. When you eat protein, it doesn't make protein in your body. Your body breaks it down into amino acids. There's 9 essential amino acids that we cannot produce, so we have to get them from food. And then your body uses those as building blocks for every tissue and cell in the body. So your skin, your organs, every single thing in your body that's made up of collagen, fibrin, elastin, it all uses amino acids. And that's really why you're eating the protein. So, and it's protein-rich foods are the most nutrient dense. So not only does it help, like Dr. Thomas was talking about with ghrelin and your hunger and your satiation, it really has all the nutrients that your body needs. So that's the main reason why we eat protein. And then the other thing too is when you get enough protein in your diet, that you tend to eat less carbs and things that aren't essential. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. you could completely live off just fiber and protein and fats. So the next you want to move to, the next thing that in the line of importance is healthy fats. There's omega-3, omega-6, omega-9 fatty acids. Omega-3s are things like avocados, salmon, mostly fish and things like that, and those are very healthy fats. They help balance the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. What you want to try to avoid is eating too much omega-6s. So a lot of things nowadays have a ton of seed oils. Everything's fried in seed oils. It's in every processed food, pretty much. If you look at the ingredients, the main thing you'll see is palm, canola, soy. Like, there's a ton of different seed oils. Seed oils aren't, it's not like the plant's bad. The reason why it's so bad is because they're very prone to oxidation. Even omega-3s as well, like fish oil, they're very prone to oxidative stress. So when you heat them up, they oxidize and it causes oxidation in the body. So that's the main reason why they're bad, is the way they're processed. They're highly processed oils. If you saw the process, you would never eat them ever again. And they use a lot of neurotoxic chemicals to deodorize them and bleach them so they look nice and yellow like you see on the shelf. So really try to stay away from seed oils as much as you can and really prioritize getting your omega-3s from things like salmon, avocados, chia seeds are good too, almonds are great, any nuts and seeds, and then fish are amazing sources of omega-3 fatty acids. So how much protein should I eat? What you really want to do is look at your ideal weight. So let's say you want to be 150 pounds, not the weight you are right now. You want to get about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So you would want to eat 150 grams of protein a day and split that up between your meals. Getting enough protein, the whole purpose of it is to not only retain your lean body mass, your lean muscle mass. Your muscles are the source of your energy, so they store glucose to be used for energy. Your brain and body functions off fats and sugar. Sugar is the easiest way for your body to get energy, but it's the least, it doesn't function the best. Fat is the best way for your body to get its fuel. So really, the longest predictor of longevity is your lean muscle mass and your ability to retain that lean muscle mass. So that's why we always talk about it as you get older. It's more important. A lot of people think they need less protein as they get older. That is the most important time to get adequate protein intake so that you retain your lean muscle mass. And then things like resistance training we'll talk about too, to retain that lean muscle mass, but also weight-bearing exercise. Any weight-bearing exercise really helps as you get older. You need to do more as you get older to stay the same. And it's even harder to overcome challenges as we get older. So I know many of you have heard you are what you eat, but really when it comes to animal products, you are what they eat. So if you're eating things, I know nowadays we hear grass-fed, grass-finished. The reason why we talk about those things is because animals, just like us, when we eat things that are not good for our bodies and metabolism, it causes metabolic disease, it causes increased fat and increased toxins in our bodies. The same goes for the animals. So when, like a cow, for example, they're meant to eat grass. So when they eat things like corn, soy, a lot of times nowadays, even in commercial lots, they feed them candy and high fructose corn syrup to fatten them up so that they have the most yield at the end of when they butcher them. But if you're eating these animals that also are getting metabolic disease basically from their diet, you're eating that as well when you go to eat it. So the best thing you can do is look for, like if you're talking about chicken, for example, eggs, there's 3 different ones. There's cage-free, pasture-raised, and then free range. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. And then with meat, you'll see just conventional, you'll see grass-fed, and then grass-fed, grass-finished. So what grass-fed, does anyone know the difference between grass-fed and grass-finished? So yeah, grass-fed, it means that they were fed grass for the majority of their lifetime, but they still do get fed grain at the end. And there's reasons for this. Some is based on climate. Like in the winter, if there is no grass, they have to feed them some grains. But what grass-fed, grass-finished means is 100% of their lifetime they were fed grass. So those can be hard to find. Some stores do have them, and then you can go online nowadays, luckily, and you can find farms where you can order boxes of meat and get it shipped directly to your house. And you can get grass-fed, grass-finished, and obviously that is the best. Grass-fed is still better than just conventional getting fed corn and soy. When we look at chicken, pasture raised means they are just living the way they would in nature. They're on the pasture, they eat grubs, bugs, and foliage, and it really leads to better composition of their fats, of their protein content, and things like that. And it staves off disease. The birds are running around, they have an active lifestyle just like how we should, and they just not only live better lives, but the meat that they provide is more nutrient dense. Cage free or free range just means they get to go out on the pasture a little bit. They usually are still fed cornmeal and soy and wheat and stuff like that. So they're not eating bugs and all that kind of stuff. Kind of the same thing with the cows. It's more for the product yield. And then cage free is literally they spend most of their time indoors and they're just not in a cage. But if you saw it, they're just all stuffed in a room, basically. They can't even move. So the best thing for the chicken is to find pasture-raised if you can. I know a lot of stores now, you can find pasture-raised eggs. And they're a tiny bit more expensive, but it's not a huge gap. But you definitely want to find pasture-raised eggs. And chicken breast, obviously. So fat does not equal fat. What this means is a lot of times we are conditioned to believe that eating high fat means it turns to fat. But a lot of times this is just untrue. A lot of times it's from processed sugar. When you eat processed sugar, it turns into fat in your body. So fat is really essential. Like we talked about before with omega-3s and omega-6s, you need essential fatty acids for proper bodily function. There's a couple different fats. There's trans fats are ones you really want to stay away from. Saturated fats are good to get about 10% of your diet in saturated fats, and then polyunsaturated fats, the rest of them. A lot of trans fats you'll find in processed foods. You don't find them in whole foods, natural sources. But like Dr. Thomas talked about with cholesterol, a lot of times we blame cholesterol and eating too much cholesterol for having heart disease and arterial atherosclerosis. But a lot of times cholesterol gets called to the site of inflammation, so it does clog up the arteries, but it's not from eating high cholesterol. It's a lot of times from having too much sugar in the blood. So now I'm going to talk about a little bit of how to formulate a diet. So I'm going to base this off of eating 2,200 calories a day. So here you can see protein and carbs both give per gram 4 calories, and then fat is 9 calories. So it takes more energy to burn fat. But if we're looking at 2,200 calories a day, and let's say, like I said before, if you're basing this off of, you want to be 150 pounds. So you want to eat 150 grams of protein, and then let's say you're getting 200 grams of carbs and 88 grams of fat. The best thing is to stay with that protein goal, and then based on your diet and how it works for you, you can go up and down. That's why these look like light switches, because you can go up and down with how much fat and carbs you get. You could do no carbs, you could do a little bit higher carbs and less fat, and you can kind of play with it, but you really want to stick to this goal of 150 grams of protein. And then this is kind of what a 2,200 calorie diet could look like in a day. So in the morning, you could have 50 grams of protein with a smoothie. You can even add some high quality whey protein to a smoothie as well. Get some extra protein there. But 500 to 600 calories. You could do a smoothie, some eggs. Eggs are the best source of protein as an animal product. Like it has the highest yield of amino acids. And the yolks are amazing. They are rich in choline, which supports cognitive function. It helps build neurotransmitters in the body. So it's a rich source of choline. So eggs are amazing. A snack, cottage cheese is great. You could do cottage cheese. You could even do some berries. You could add a protein bar, or a lot of times, like if you don't like beef jerky, they have those beef sticks now that taste less like you're chewing on a tire and definitely more enjoyable. Dinner, or let's go to lunch. Lunch, you could do another, so you're basically getting 150 grams of protein, and you can mix this around however you want. So you're trying to get 3 meals a day, 50 grams of protein per meal. That's the ideal goal. You want to try to hit the macros, which is the carbs, fat, and protein. And what I call is majoring in the majors. If you get those, then you can play around with the nuanced stuff. But a lot of times if you try to implement too many nuanced things in a diet, it becomes very overwhelming. So if you really try to stick to those three, just hitting those macros, especially the protein, a lot of other things fall into place. And then, like I said, dinner, 50 grams of protein, could be a steak, chicken breast, assortment of vegetables, whatever you really like to cook. I would definitely encourage using a lot more spices. There's a lot of good spices that are really good for your health. Garlic, turmeric, ginger. I mean, there's hundreds, but they really do add a lot of flavor to food as well. And so there's a lot more than just salt and pepper. And then the biggest thing is just focusing on foods that increase your metabolic rate. So focus on protein-rich foods, grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, and pasture-raised eggs. They really help increase thermogenesis, helping your body burn more calories during digestion. Stick to leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. The deeper the color in fruits and vegetables, like the more rich that color is, the deeper green, things like beets, really deep red, purple, those have the highest nutrient density. So those are really good. Things like spinach, kale, they're really high in iron and magnesium, and really good for energy production and metabolism. Healthy fats, like I said, things like avocados, nuts, seeds. You could do a good pressed olive oil, coconut oil, things like that. They really help provide long-lasting energy and support for hormonal health. And like I said, spices, things like turmeric, cinnamon, cayenne pepper is really good for metabolism as well, and ginger. And then, like I said, berries. Like blueberries, blackberries, there's really blue, dark berries they have the highest amount of antioxidants in them, so those are great. And they really help lower inflammation in the body. So I would definitely, the biggest thing with the vegetables and the berries is getting enough dietary fiber. So along with protein, you need dietary fiber to not only be satiated, but it really helps gut motility. All right, so Dr. Thomas is going to talk more about our Max Living Advanced plan versus the core plan here.
Who got the book when they started care here? We give you guys a book. You guys got books? Okay, cool. So if you started in the last 2-3 months, you got a newer book. It still goes through this concept the same, but I advise you guys to look at this as a resource. The core plan and advanced plan have been around for 25 years too, so if you Google it, you're going to see tons of cool information on this and resources, okay? But what we kind of embodied there, it breaks into a simple concept called either the core plan or the advanced plan, okay? And so if you're looking at this and saying, okay, that's great, how do I put it all together? Where's my framework? If you go into your book, you'll use this as a resource, but the core plan is a basic way of eating. Advanced plan is more of a healing diet, okay? The core plan embodies 3 key changes. Sure, that's fine, no worries. The core plan embodies 3 key changes. So the first one is sugar and carbohydrates. And so the idea with the core plan is you can have carbohydrates. It's if you're already healthy, you're trying to maintain good health. If you're a performance athlete working out a lot and you don't have any blood sugar or insulin sensitivity issues, core plan diet is awesome, okay? You can have carbohydrates. You're just mainly switching them from like a refined carbohydrate source like Dr. Marks was talking about with like, Gatorades and tons of sweets and cereal for breakfast and like eating massive amounts of carbohydrates to whole forms of carbohydrates. Your, sprouted grains, fruits, root vegetables as well that have a good amount of carbohydrates, but also have fiber nutrients behind them. So you're satiated and full and not just feeling like you just ate a bunch of sugar. The second one is protein. So moderating your protein intake on both of these plans. We talk about the importance of protein, and if you look at a lot of the studies now on longevity, we're really under-proteined. Sarcopenia, which is like muscle wasting, it occurs rapidly with age, and it's one of the biggest causes of early death. If you look at people who get cancer, sarcopenia is one of the number one causes, the reason why people can't actually like make it through cancer treatment, because they lose muscle so fast. And so one of the most important things is trying to keep as much lean muscle mass on as possible. Not only does it store glucose for you, it's your source of energy burning, but it makes you more resistant to having bad things happen. Keeps your bones stronger. When we age, the concerns there are getting sick, having a fall, breaking something, and if you keep your lean muscle mass, you're much less likely to have those things be the thing that takes you down, okay? The last one is fats. So making sure that you're having good intakes of fats, and really the core plan is about selecting the right type of healthy fats versus unhealthy fats. So core plan is just about eating good, healthy, clean foods in good quantities, and it's really about a good way to sustain a good, healthy diet. The advanced plan, so let's say you have an active disease process, your insulin sensitivity is low, you suffer with obesity, you have chronic inflammation, you have an autoimmune disease. The advanced plan is more of a healing diet. And so it's similar concepts as the core plan with regards to quality of food, but the changes there is that if you really want to work on reducing disease, or if you have chronic addictions to sugar, cutting it out for a period of 1 to 2 months can be absolutely game changing. Most people do not realize how addicted they are to sugar, and when you get off of it, you learn real fast that sugar is very addictive. The first 2 to 3 days. Has anyone ever done this before? Show of hands, okay. If you remember back, the first time you did it, I remember it exactly. Yeah, I was in college and I was like learning about this. I was like, I'm gonna do it. And my wife and I struggled so hard. It was like, wow, I didn't realize how much we were really like just addicted to having sugar all the time. So your blood sugar is super unstable at first because you don't know how to regulate it. Once it regulates out on its own though, it's almost like the veil is lifted off and you're like, holy crap, what have I been doing, right? And that's kind of where I think like food marketers win, is like people never do that. They never reset their insulin sensitivity. So they're just constantly craving sugar and carbohydrates, and they're a slave to their own emotions and hormones, right? So the advanced plan eliminates most carbohydrates. You can still have them in their natural form. You can have lower glycemic berries and fruits as well, but you're eliminating mostly all of your sources of grain. So it's a very low carbohydrate, moderate fat, moderate protein diet. Okay, your fats are still there. You're just going to end up having more fats to make up for the energy deficit. Having slightly more fats is okay as long as you're doing them in the right forms. And when you do this, you're going to see massive changes in blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, cravings, mental clarity. It's awesome. Protein stays the same. So protein in your life should really not be a dimmer switch. You should really have a set point of protein that you're aiming to hit every day. It's called a protein goal. And so it's 1 gram, as Dr. Mark said, 1 gram per pound of ideal body mass. So not what you weigh now, what you ideally would weigh. And as we finish this, we'll help you guys figure that number out, because there's a number for most people of where you want to be, okay? So How do you put this together to determine your unique plan? Well, the best way to do it is to get stats on your body, okay? And so before you guys go, you'll have an opportunity to do this. We have an in-body scanner where we can actually scan your body and see what your weight is, what your body mass is, what your fat content is, and what your muscle mass is, okay? I know, right? See the big eyes. So again, you don't know where to go if you don't know where you are, right? And so getting that first determination of where you actually are will really help you get a better understanding of what direction to go, okay? And so answering those questions, do you just have too much body fat? Do you not have enough muscle? Is it a combination of both? Do you need to emphasize more fitness training with regards to gaining muscle mass, or is it just weight loss where you have a good amount of muscle? Surprisingly, when we test people, a lot of people have good amounts of muscle. It's just hiding. We just got to let it show, okay? So I'm just saying, like, a lot of people think they're under muscled. Like, we do it, we're like, no, you got plenty of muscle on you. Like, you're strong. You just, we got to get the body fat into a good level. But once we get those numbers there, we can determine ideal body mass indexes and help you guys through this, okay? So it's all about getting those proportions right, okay? So when it comes to health, the best way to do it is not to guess, to test, because if you're guessing, it's really, really hard to hit the nail on the head, okay? And so the first thing we do is an in-body scan to measure your issues. I will briefly touch on our more advanced lab testing. There it is, okay. So if you guys have been through this before, or you have a lot of issues going on, maybe they're more severe health issues, maybe it's chronic inflammation, maybe it's an autoimmune disease, maybe it's chronic GI problems, we do offer advanced lab testing. And so the goal is always to hit the cause of the problem. For some people, we can change your diet, give you supplements. Some of you guys might have tried this and you don't know where to go, right? And so a couple different labs we have are really kind of groundbreaking labs that can give us great answers. One's a metabolic test. So the one that's pictured up behind me, it basically measures your entire metabolism from start to finish. And so what we can measure is when food goes into your body, how is it broken down and metabolized for fuel? It's really interesting because what we can see there is nutrient deficiencies. We can see toxicities. We can see deficiencies in fatty acids. We can also see points of toxicity. And so typically speaking, our body should be able to break down, metabolize, and utilize food for fuel. Some people are like, listen, I've been doing the right things. I've been exercising. I've been taking some supplements. I've been doing pretty well, but I'm still fatigued. I'm still lethargic. I can't lose weight. A lot of times this test will tell us where we're deficient, right? And so we'll see anything from, I've had patients with uranium toxicity, I've had patients with lead toxicity, aluminum toxicity. I see patients all the time who have mitochondrial insufficiency. So they have chronic nutrient deficiencies. And so your mitochondria, your power plants, that's what turns sugar into energy, your usable form of energy, which is called ATP. And so people, they like their power plants are working at 20%. They're chronically deficient in magnesium, B vitamins, trace nutrients and minerals. And so you may have to over-supplement those for a period of time to get your body actually producing energy like you'd want it to, right? So those are the different tests that we do that are available. We have one that tests metabolic health. We also have one that does an in-depth test on stool health. And so if someone's having like chronic gastrointestinal issues, we can now test, microbially speaking, the lining of the gut, the actual accumulation of the flora inside of the entire system. There's 130 different types of major bacterium inside of your GI tract, and we can now test them on a level and see exactly where they are. The gut bacteria, they're kind of like gangs of New York. They all have to like play along nicely and respect their own territories. And if one gets too big and overpowered, it'll kill off all the others. And so when we see gut problems, problems with like bloating, chronic bowel issues, ulcerative colitis, autoimmune diseases, we commonly see problems that are housed inside of the GI tract, and you have to hit them specifically. If you mess around with them or just try to take like a bunch of supplements and throw it at the problem, oftentimes it doesn't get better and you're just spinning your wheels with it. So if you're stuck, if you're confused, if you're like, I want to do something to get my health better, but I don't even know where to start because of X, Y, Z, we can always sit down after this and discuss it more. The lab testing we offer, for both tests, the cost is $7.99, and that includes the lab analysis, at-home collection kit, and actually going through it with us. We do a small discount today, too, if you guys are interested in those products. Again, if you have questions on them, we can talk more, too, to make sure that we get the right tests for you guys. But just a cool thing of, like, what these go through. Anyone ever take, like, biochemistry in school? Never thought you'd use it every day. So these are the pathways through which your body actually turns food into fuel. And so we're looking at these in-depth systems to see exactly where you're deficient. So it's getting all the way down to the cellular level to find out where your problems are. So I love it. It's going through stuff like the Krebs cycle and beta oxidation and silly terms that you learned in chemistry class 20, 30 years ago. Okay, so next we'll talk about fitness and how to fitness into your schedule, because you need it. Okay, it's not just about becoming a meathead. That's not my goal for you guys. And please don't think that you're going to get done with this too, and at any point say, I got too big with muscles accidentally. I promise you it will not happen. I've been trying to make that mistake for 20 years now and get too much muscle. It doesn't happen, okay? It is very hard to gain muscle, so please don't feel like you're going to get bulky with this. But what does muscle do? Muscle is a storage site for glucose. So your muscle is how you actually burn through your body's glucose stores. And so more muscle means a better ability to tolerate glucose and to push it through your body, and a lower incidence of diabetes. When we get older, we start to lose muscle mass. And so your tolerance for glucose is a lot less. And so the way to stave off aging is to put on more muscle. And every year you get older, it becomes harder to do. And so the best time to start is now. Honestly, now, okay? So you have a higher affinity to store less fat with muscle sexy, better blood sugar, longevity, more muscle mass leads to longer telomeres, which on a cellular level is how we age. And so longer telomeres means your DNA can divide, your cells can divide for longer, therefore you stay around for longer. When cells die and they can't replace anymore, that's how we age. And so having better lean muscle mass helps improve this sort of longevity, okay? The theory behind it's pretty simple. I like this theory. What did muscles do in a society 400 or 500 years ago? What did someone with muscle do? Anyone who had muscle, what could they do?
Feed themselves.
They could feed themselves. They could maybe build stuff. They could help other people. They could lend themselves to society. And granted, nowadays, you can lend yourself to society in a lot of ways. You can do it with your mind only, zero muscle whatsoever. You can invent things, build things, what have you. But if you think back to like where we came from, being able to do physical labor and work meant your body would say, I need to be around for this, right? So the best way that I can think about it is having more muscle mass on you is your body's way of telling your brain, I'm still important, don't die on me yet. I know it sounds basic, but that's the reality of what I really think it is. And on that level, it seems like the more our body breaks down from a muscle standpoint, the faster we start to develop disease in the body. So keep your muscle around. It's a way of telling your body, I need to be around. And all the tests we're seeing now is that the more lean muscle mass you keep, the less your cells break down, the more it helps stave off aging, okay? It improves your immune system, really helps to balance your hormones as well. Low muscle mass can really be impairing to your hormone production, namely testosterone production. You'll produce less, and both men and women, we need testosterone, so don't think this is just like a male hormone. Both of us need testosterone for hormone control, okay? So the goals with talking through this with you guys is helping you understand how to build more lean functional muscle, resist the effects of aging, improve what's known as your VO2 max, or that's your ability to inhale and fully respire and oxygenate your body. That's been shown to be improved with good fitness and good exercise. The less you exercise, the less you can breathe well and oxygenate your body. Goals is also to improve something known as heart rate variability. Anyone heard of that before? Another cool longevity tool? Sure.
Do you want the number to be high or low?
High.
High.
For high,
Like,
yes.
is it based on 100?
I don't know what it's based on. I don't know the exact measurement, but you want your heart rate variability to be higher.
Tell you what's
Yes.
happening.
So you want it to be higher. So essentially, the heart rate variability is your body's ability to both increase and decrease its heart rate and heartbeat and space between heartbeats. So it's basically your heart's adaptability to any situation, okay? So the more that you can get a high heart rate and a low heart rate, the better, right? If you look at like extreme athletes, I remember Lance Armstrong was famous for this. Anyone remember what his resting heart rate was? It's like 38. He was like a bear when he slept. Like he like 2 seconds between. I know, yeah. I say it with an asterisk, I know, but like I just remember them always talking about him like that he had a resting heart rate that was lower than like anyone's, right? I know, he did bad stuff. I agree. But Heart rate variability was probably on point. Improve your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, delay aging, reduce your risk of fatal falls and injuries. The reality is that if you're over 80 and you break a hip, your risk of dying in the next year is 60%. It's insanely high. And so keeping that lean muscle mass keeps those bones strong. When you work your muscles, they pull at the tendons of your bones, and they're telling your body, we need more calcium here, we need more calcium here. That's what's helping to keep your bones strong as well. If you don't use it, yeah, okay? So measuring fitness, we measure it with a couple things. VO2 max, so that's your ability to oxygenate your body and have a good respiratory rate. So they've shown that people who are in the top 1/4 of VO2 max and the bottom 1/4, your risk of early death is 4 times greater in the bottom 1/4 of VO2 max versus the top 1/4 of it. And so you want to try to be as close to elite as possible in that for as long as possible, okay? You do not have to be a world champion. Just, you need to be better than average, okay? And really work on pushing that up. Muscle strength is important. Not just muscle mass. So it's not just having bulky muscles, but having good functional muscle. And then we measure this with metabolic rate. And so the more that you increase muscle mass, the more that your natural metabolic rate will increase. Okay, so there's 3 types of fitness. Okay, these would be the things to write down. So I've tried to summarize it into one slide of how you should live your fitness life. Okay, so 3 different types. One would be your aerobic fitness. So aerobic fitness is your, what you would call zone 2 heart rate fitness. This would be your ability to get up, walk around, spend a little bit more time doing this, and get like a good, what you would call like brisk walk or light jog. You can talk during this type of exercise. You're a bit strained, but you can still talk and have an active conversation. Ideal would be 4 45-minute sessions per week, but the minimum standard for this would be 2 30-minute sessions a week of activity. Okay, minimum standard, okay? Best, again, is more than that, right? And really, you should be active all day long, but these are your minimum standards and what I think is best, okay? Not what I think is best, I apologize. I got all the studies on this if you want them. Sorry, I don't want to sound like I just think. Anaerobic, okay? So the anaerobic system is a different type of system than the aerobic system, okay? Aerobic, if I'm exercising, I'm jogging, and I'm lightly doing stuff, at a zone 2, my body is slowly breaking down usually fat to provide me with energy. It's going to keep a lot of the glucose in my muscles because you need the glucose in your muscles for instant bursts of energy. And so back when we used to look at these funky exercise charts in the 80s, and it would say, are you in your fat burning zone? That's technically speaking what zone 2 is. That's an aerobic zone, okay? An anaerobic zone, I think I put it up there, can't talk, busy, dying. It's a different type of exercise, okay? But it's an important type of exercise to do. And this is oftentimes the one that most people don't do, okay? When you're by yourself, you typically don't want to push yourself hard enough. So unless you're with someone or in a class, like we just tend to like back off of this a little bit because it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's a little bit scary usually, okay? But what this anaerobic type of exercise and workout does is it pulls the glucose out of your muscles to be instantly utilized for energy. So think high intensity interval training, think sprinting, think doing something at a really high rate so that your heart rate is getting up to that close to 80% of max rate. That's what you want, okay? And so it doesn't have to be dangerous. It doesn't have to be that you're max bench pressing for reps with no spotter. Really, this can just be running in place as fast as possible, or doing air squats really fast, or sprinting or jogging in your yard as fast as you comfortably can. Best is 2 20 to 30 minute sessions per week. Minimum is 1 20 to 30 minute session per week. So you have to get the sweat going with this one, okay? When you do this, your body essentially breaks down all the glucose out of your muscle cells, and then, so you're not actually burning fat while you're working out, but the next 24 to 48 hours, your body essentially starts harvesting fat breaking it down for energy supplies, and then your body starts to restore its glycogen. And so you're getting this whole like episode for 24 to 48 hours of like post-exercise fat breakdown, where your body's breaking down fat to restore its energy reserves. So it's really awesome for like recomposing yourself, doing these high intensity interval workouts. Okay, you sort of want to break down the fat so that it goes away. Okay. The last one is strength. Get to the choppa. Arnold Schwarzenegger, lift weights, grunt. 2 sessions per week. Best is 3 to 4. And so with strength training, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Okay. Strength training is not go to the gym or go to your gym or lift weights and like lift them up and count to 10 and put them down and then do that again and then put them down. Okay. The amount of weights you move doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is your perceived exertion under stress. So it doesn't matter if you're lifting 4-pound weights or 50-pound weights. The last 3 to 5 reps have to be difficult. What most studies show is that if you're not bringing your muscles to near failure or near like extreme fatigue, you're not going to get the response to help them grow and get bigger. Okay. The best way I can think about this is putting on muscle takes work. And your body doesn't necessarily just want to put on tons of muscle mass unless it's absolutely necessary. Your body puts on muscle because it's having to work through something. Okay, so think about it this way. A car falls on you and you push it off and you just barely get it off of your body. What your body says is, wow, we better put some muscle down so next time it doesn't kill us. That's the point of having muscle. So if you're not working yourself towards the end of it, you're actually not going to get much of a response. In fact, they've measured people who do this. They do these studies where they have people lift weights and do 3 sets of 10 where there's no like extreme exertion, and then people do the same thing but just do a few more reps till they go to exertion. These people synthesize lean muscle mass, these people do not. It doesn't change. So if you're going to do this, don't just check the box. You have to do it to the point that you feel it, or else, I mean, you're not wasting your time, but you know what I mean? You're not getting the best benefits of it that you could and should be. Does that make sense? Okay, so any exercise and workout you're doing, when it's strength training, you need to go to that near perceived fatigue or failure. Okay, so if you feel comfortable on your own, do free weights. If not, you can even use machine weights in the gym to start. You know, they don't have any risk of stability, so you can just get on a machine and you can press and feel good that, you know, you can go through the ranges of motion. As you get comfortable with it, don't do this on your first session if you haven't worked out in a while, but work on getting to that perceived exertion rate, okay? You're gonna be sore the next day. It's the best feeling in the world when you wake up and it feels like you did stuff, okay? And not only does muscle help with that, but the amount of endorphins you get from working out, I mean, it is nature's talk therapy, right? They've compared, I'm not saying talk therapy is bad, I think it's very important, but they've directly compared exercise versus talk therapy. You know what they've shown? If you had to pick one, exercise is a better antidepressant than even talk therapy is. Now, granted, I think they both have their merits, and together they're even better, but they've shown that exercise or deficiency in exercise is huge when it comes to mental state and mental health. You guys agree with that? You guys have been there? It's such a huge thing, right? Right? Just reminds you that the world's going to be a good place, okay? So if you go from 0 exercise to 90 minutes of exercise per week, lowers your risk of dying from all causes by 15%. There's no medication on the planet that would do that for you, right? It is not a good idea. It is absolutely mandatory when it comes to good health, okay? People who regularly exercise, on average, live a decade longer than those who don't, okay? So everyone wants to bring up gym fits. You guys know what that is? The guy invented jogging? Come on, you guys. He famously had a heart attack at like 60. But the reality is like most people who exercise live longer than those who don't, okay? Questions on that? It's one slide on it. Get the concept, make it hurt. Get a trainer, go to a gym, get a membership. It's worth it, okay? So we'll switch gears a little bit here. We went through fitness, we went through nutrition. Part of this is if you're starting to move more, you've got to be able to keep your body healthy. And most of you guys who are here are patients who are actively getting adjusted. One of the things we want to avoid is you hurting yourself or you not being able to work out or exercise like you want to, right? So when you're here, a lot of you guys are under wellness care for adjustments. You're under corrective care. We're working on getting your spine healthier. The goal is to make you really hard to kill. And so that when you work out, when you exercise, when you go run, you can do these things well, okay? What people don't realize now is that the top cause of disability now in the US is back problems. It's the number one reason we can't exercise, can't work out, can't do what we want to do. I think it's a combination of all the aforementioned things, the lack of exercise, lack of movement, that our body breaks down. And so I will say this, as you're starting to work out, please come in here and complain, okay? Tell us where the problems are, talk about what the issues are. If it's hip mobility, we'll help you through hip exercises. If it's that your back's hurting more in certain areas, we'll adjust you differently. If we need to do decompression, we'll do that. If we need to use focused ultrasound on you to regenerate areas where you have weak ligaments or weak muscles or tendonitis, where you're starting to work out and saying, oh, that's why I stopped working out, because my shoulder's so bad I can't lift weights with it. Help us help you through these things, okay? But keep getting adjusted, keep your body healthy. This is some of the reasons why we adjust you guys. Like, I don't get to go through nerdy science very often, but one of the reasons that you're maintaining your spine and trying to keep it into a good alignment is having a healthy spine is one of the absolute best projectors of longevity, because without a healthy spine, it's really hard to work out and be fit. And it sucks if you're in pain all day and can't sleep and can't rest and recover. This gives you the ability to do everything else well. Doesn't make you healthy, but it gives you the ability to do everything else well in your life, okay? When it comes to alignment and keeping good posture, poor spinal alignment predicts pathology 79% of the time. So we can look at x-rays and look at where someone has poor posture or arthritis, and we can accurately predict where those organ systems are coming off of the spine and say there's going to be problems with this organ, with this organ, with this organ. It's a 79% consistency with it. Some organs have overlap, but generally speaking, you can pinpoint where problem areas are going to be long-term. So keeping your spine well aligned and moving well, absolutely vital to long-term health. That's a big reason why we have you guys here. And just to say that you're doing yourself a service by doing it. And hopefully while you're doing this, you're doing everything else right. So that becomes your foundation for being healthy, exercising, moving well, doing everything right, okay? Our goal here with you guys is to truly make your posture better. And so this is my time to remind you guys, don't skip out on this stuff. Okay. The reason we take you guys through this specific process in our office is to actually change your spine. Adjustments alone do not change your spine. As much as I want to say that they do, they mobilize your spine, they loosen up areas that are stuck, they can help with alignment to some extent. But in order to truly change your posture and change your spinal alignment, we have to loosen your spine up first, get those muscles and ligaments moving, adjust you specifically, and then strengthen your spine afterwards. And so the body weighting protocols that we use, the head weights, the chest weights, the pelvic weights, or if you have scoliosis, the cantilever weights that are the bigger ones that you'll see some patients using out here, those are meant to pull and hold your spine in a better position as it's cooling down, okay? And so I say this because after about a year, people start skipping their post-exercises. And then we take x-rays on people every year, and then I tell people, hey, your spine's getting worse. And they're like, well, what the heck? I've been getting adjusted. And I'm like, well, do you do this? Well, no. Do you do home exercises? Well, no. Do you sleep on your rolls ever? Well, no. Do you use a big pillow? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, well, no crap. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't magic, okay? Like, there's nothing magic in the world. Like, you get what you put in. And so if you're doing this, make sure that you're spending the time to walk through all these protocols inside of the office to get better, okay? That's why our system's set up in the office like that. There's a why behind everything that we do. And really, it's meant to give you guys the best results possible and keep your spine healthy long term, okay? If you guys haven't followed us online, you guys should. The cool thing about getting to do what we do is we get to see some cool things in our office on a daily basis. So just another last cool thing, and then I'll stop harping about it, but better outcomes. This is one of the things you guys will see long term if you guys have been patients here for a long time, is this doesn't just help you feel better, it actually helps your body function better. People who receive long-term chiropractic care and keep their spines healthy, on average, they spend 69% less on out-of-pocket health costs, and they take 85% less pharmaceutical medications long-term. And so the idea behind this is that people have less surgeries, less overall problems. It gives you the potential to stay healthier. That's why the investment, you're voting with your dollars here, is worth it, I think, in the long run for you guys, okay? If you guys haven't tried focused ultrasound, you should. It's freaking awesome. For regenerating tissues, we've used it now for more than 7 years in our office. Anyone use it before? Does it feel great? No. It's awesome though, right? I know, yeah. Yes, exactly. So as we get older, tissues start to break down, and I'll be 40 this year, so I can't talk if you're older than me. If you're younger than me, it sucks at this age too. But things break down and they don't heal sometimes, and it becomes a huge nuisance. 7 years ago, I've had disc herniations in my back since I was 16. So that's why I've started with chiropractic care. I had a car accident when I was 16, and I was bent in half by a lineman when I wasn't paying attention at a football game. And I was a little guy. I was a little wide receiver, and I got this 300-pound guy just destroyed me. So anyways, I've had chronic disc issues. Well, 6 years ago in practice, they were so bad that I couldn't even hardly practice. I was closing before I had an associate doctor several days a week because I couldn't bend over tables anymore and adjust you guys. And I was going 150 feet that way, and I was dropping $7,000 to $10,000 on stem cell injections into my spine to try to heal them. And it was unbelievably painful. If you think shockwave is bad, try that. 4-inch needle, they bend it like Beckham around the spine to hit the discs. And this guy didn't use fluoroscopy, so like he didn't know where the nerve was going, and I should have known better. But he's like, I've been doing this for a while. And I'm like, yeah, but I know that there's anatomical variances. And he just nails my descending nerve root, and like my whole leg just, it wasn't on fire, but in my brain it was on fire. Anyways, that helped some, but there's better ways now to stimulate stem cell regeneration and repair. And so now we use focused ultrasound. We can get 5 inches deep inside the body, stimulate the body in the same way that a PRP or a stem cell injection would be, but we can treat wider swaths of area. The cost comparison is unbelievably better. There's a cost for focused ultrasound, but it's 5 to 10% that of stem cells. So it works really well. You can treat big areas, and it really helps to regenerate injuries and get you back to where you should be. The long-term studies of this is that if there's tears in your muscles smaller than 3 millimeters, which is like 1/8 of an inch, it'll actually heal those. And so you can take micro tears and make them better. So if you're trying to work out or you're saying, I can't do it, maybe look into something like this and get back to where you need to be. Cool.